Cyrus and RetroBro, cranking out nostalgia flow. Games of your news today. Partial kicks, no delay. Pixels blast, legends rise. 8-bit world pixelize. Controllers we command. Virtual worlds conquest grand. Cyan Bro, metal saints. Gaming news without restraints. Retro games, new tech search. On this pod, legends merge. Old school tales, arcades fly. Console wars keep it live. Joystick buttons, old school rain. Next gen glory every stage. Retro quest, fury bright. Speed runs battles every night. Cyrus roars, Bro stands tall. Gaming legends, they call. CRT screens and LED. Flicker, flash, reverie. Microphone to shield their sword. Podcast singers, gaming lords. Virtual screens and LED. Flicker, flash, reverie. Microphone to shield their sword. Podcast singers, gaming lords.
What is up, guys? John the Retro Bro back again to the monthly episode of the Buddy Cop Retro Show. I'm back again with Super Mega Graphics 64, also known as Cyrus, and my buddy Mike, Picky Old Gamer. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. It's been a month. If I would have had no idea the amount of stuff we had to talk about, so it was piling up. I'm like, we have to do an episode. It's been about a month. There's obviously been huge news with the PlayStation 5 Pro. I think this show is mostly going to be the PlayStation 5 Pro Super Show. I'll call it that. The majority. There's other things to talk about, but I mean, the elephant in the room is a $700 PlayStation console. So we're going to get into this pretty heavily. What's up, guys? I'll start with Cyrus, man. What you been up to? What you been playing?
Oh, well, I've been busy. I've been very busy. I think all of us have been very busy. I haven't had a lot of free time. I haven't even done anything on my Rumble channel in like almost a week. And I haven't played a whole lot of stuff. I've been setting up my PC, my gaming PC, and getting all the emulators set up, and I've been having some fun doing that. Thank you, sir. Thank you. But yeah, man, it's just been kind of a blur. It's been kind of a blur. So I haven't really been into too much in the way of games in the past couple weeks, really. But maybe I'll have some time this weekend. We'll see. I don't know.
What about you, Mike? What you been up to? I saw you post a couple things on Rumble regarding the PS5 Pro, but other than that, how's life treating you?
Oh, it's going pretty good. Like I said, I had surgery for weight loss. It's a journey. It's been a couple weeks since that, so that kind of took up most of my time and healing. And I haven't been playing a lot. I mean, I played a lot of the Doom game that came out, and that kind of the last thing I played. I haven't really had a lot of time to play it. Just working and doing everything else, and yeah, watching the new stuff come out, and then watch this train wreck be announced. It was interesting.
Yeah.
If you would have told me, I mean, we'll get into it here in a bit. If you would have told me that they would have been announcing the PlayStation 5 Pro, this last week, I would have probably told you were crazy, because it's been rumored for so long. And I was like, I got excited about it for like a while, and I'm like, I'm just gonna stop. I'm not going to get excited about it until Sony actually announces it themselves, and they did. Speaking of Doom, we talked a little bit about that on our last show, and Yeah, I spent a lot of hours with that Doom game. I streamed some of it. I didn't realize at the time that we recorded it, but they have all the mods on there as well. So all those like the nuts mods or whatever, they have all those on there. So I spent some time doing some of the mods because I'm not, even though I'm a PC gamer, I don't really mess with mods too much. It just makes me nervous. I feel like I'm going to download a virus or I'm going to break something. So I just don't really mess with mods. So it's pretty cool that Doom, even on the console versions, included all those mods that you can download. So that was a lot of fun. The last 2 weeks I've been playing Black Myth Wukong. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I feel like that should be the game of the year, winner this year, not just because I like it, just because of how amazing it is. But yeah, man, I've been busy. I'm glad we can do this episode because yeah, like I said, it's been it's been crazy. So everybody, thank you for joining us. If you're watching this on the premiere, super glad to have you here. We do this once a month. We basically just cover all gaming news, modern, retro, talk about crazy pickups, size never-ending struggle with the Atari 5200.
Oh my God. Don't even, don't even. Like, I love it, but
Keep buying bad carts. What's going on?
do we really need to? I'll say this. I own almost 60 cartridges, and out of all those, 3 of them don't work.
That's not too
And
bad.
No.
yeah,
Not
and
bad.
I'm pretty sure it's the cartridges that are the problem, because otherwise you would think I would have more problems with more cartridges, right? But there's been so much advice that I've got. I posted on Atari Age trying to get help, and I got so many different opinions of, oh, it's this and it's this and it could be that and it could be this. What I ended up doing is buying the Atari 5200 EverDrive. It's called the Atari Max. So that'll be in maybe in a couple weeks. That guy takes forever to ship stuff. But once I have that, I can just play off of that, and I'll have my cartridges. But holy crap, this is what we get for caring about physical product. You know, it's like I want to play on the real console and I want to play on the cartridges, but it's like expensive and problematic, and the controllers and all these issues, and then the games don't work, and it's like, come on, man, like,
Come on,
wow,
man. Come on, man.
come
That
on,
sucks.
man.
I mean, you know what, man? The EverDrive I think is a smart idea because I mean, I still have Genesis games and I still have Nintendo games, but like I still have the EverDrives because I feel like there's some games like I want to own the original
Well,
cartridge for.
homebrew is such a great thing, and if you have an EverDrive or an Atari Max or whatever they call their version, then you have access to not only the retail games, that
Yeah.
all the games, but you get all these homebrew games and these hacks and all this stuff. So it really opens up a lot of. I should have bought one of these damn cartridges like years ago, but I was like, no, I want to have the actual. I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, so anyway, I'm glad to have the cartridges, but yeah, I mean, come on, like in this day and age, the fewer times we shove a cartridge in and out of a console, the better, right? Because the more times you do that, the more likely something's going to screw up. So I don't know. Anyway, I wasn't planning to rant about the Atari 5200 situation, but
Well, I was genuinely curious because you mentioned it a little bit on your Discord, and I didn't really get to see all the messages on there. So I was going to ask you about it regardless, whether it was on here or in a private conversation. So thank you, because I was genuinely curious. But it sounds like honestly, 3 carts out of 60, it's old hardware, man.
yeah,
These carts
it
don't.
is what it is.
Unfortunately, these carts don't last forever.
Right.
You can say what you want about the disc rot and some of the CD based games, but cartridges don't last either, man. I've got some Nintendo carts and some Sega carts that get a little goofy on me.
Some are made better than others, like
Yeah.
especially with that console, and like Genesis and different, the consoles that have the third party cartridges that are a little weird, like they're just not made as well as the ones that are like official, that are like, especially for the 5200, because the actual Atari carts and the ones that are like made by Atari, Those things, man, you could throw those across the highway and they would still be fine because they're built like tanks. But some of these third party ones, man, they're just not good cartridges. And yeah, I've seen that with, like you said, Genesis, Nintendo, TurboGrafx. I mean, things happen, and the older this stuff gets, the more wear and tear. And we want physical though, right? Which is going to come into part of the discussion about this PlayStation
Oh
situation
yeah,
also.
yeah.
But yeah, there's not a silver bullet for being a gamer. There's not yeah.
I'll be curious to see how long N64 cartridges last. Those things might actually last forever. Because you can
I
use
have
those
an
as hockey
EverDrive.
pucks.
Yeah, I have an EverDrive for my N64, and it has everything, and I just leave it in my N64. But you're right; those are really well made cards. Those are really really good.
Well,
Absolutely.
that is a perfect transition into this PS5 Pro. Do you guys want to react to the video, or do you think that we pretty much seen it all? I mean, if
I don't
there's
think
anything
everybody's.
important,
Yeah, everybody's
yeah,
seen it
I'm
already.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of right there with you. So we don't have to react to that. Everybody watching this has seen it. It was surprisingly short. I got really excited for it. I wish they would have. So initial reactions, we'll start there. I wish they would have shown more, especially for with the price that they announced, which we'll get into a bit. Overall, for me, I feel like it was a pretty lackluster presentation. What do you think, Mike, on the initial presentation itself?
It seems like it was more a lot of fluff and him talking about, the specs and look at this and then the comparisons were so shitty to the
Yeah,
point where to me you could see a difference in the frames per second. That's something I think most people, even with somebody with bad eyes, my eyes are getting worse as I get older, but you can tell difference between 30 and 60 frames per second. But then he goes, and you can see the detail difference right here. And I sit there and I looked at I'm watching it on a 40-inch 4K TV, and I'm like, I can't fucking tell a difference. And I'm like, they go through all this and talk about the PSSR, the AI that they have in there that help upscale, and then
You know what they're
three
calling that PSSR? They're calling it pisser.
pisser. Well, that's they took a piss when they did this, and then up to 2 to 3 times better ray tracing. Okay, great, but consoles are not about the ray tracing. Usually they turn that stuff down because they want to make it run better. And more 45% better overall performance, and it's just like it goes back to what Cyrus and I said back on Game Ramblings a long time ago when they were talking about the PlayStation Neo, which became the Pro. I was like,
I
we
remember
don't
that.
need these fucking consoles, these mid-cycle upgrades are not needed. You don't have to buy one. If you don't buy one, you're not missing anything. And then I was actually right now, I pulled up the PlayStation website, which they finally, updated, show the PS5 Pro, and then they got all the fancy stuff, what it does, and you can zoom in on it and look at the design. But then they show the games, and they're like old. It's like, look at these
Yeah,
games. They have the improvements for PS5 Pro, and it's like, I'm looking at it right here. Last of Us Part 1 and 2, Demon Souls, Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Forbidden West, Until Dawn, Ratchet and Clank. That's it. That's all they fucking show on their website with improved visuals. And it's like, really? That's what you're trying to tout for a $700 console that doesn't come with a disc drive or a fucking vertical stand. I mean, I know we're going to get into this, but it's like this whole thing was just like they
It,
came out, they copped a squat, they dropped a turd, and it's like, how's it smell? And I think it's a piece. I think it's
yeah.
shit. You know,
I actually wanted to expand on one of the things you said about the comparisons because I think it was really interesting, and I think that was one of the things that I think the presentation really lacked. Was I mean I found myself like I had to pause. I was like because I was watching on my phone or on my computer or wherever I watched it, but I would pause it and then try and look at it. you know, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Digital Foundry, but they do a lot of the comparison stuff. And there's a reason why you have to like zoom in on these things. Most people are watching on a mobile phone. So Digital Foundry takes time, slows things down, zooms in, shows you the foliage, shows you, you know, the sky, little minor details on characters. They didn't do any of this on there. And
Yep.
you know, I'm like, if you're gonna ask the price that you're asking for, which I didn't know when they're showing that, you know, when I first watched it, because I didn't know what to expect. You know, my initial reaction was, okay, like a PS5 Pro. You go back to PS4 Pro was $399. It was like $100 more than the PlayStation 4. Made sense. That was a pretty good upgrade. So you know, if you would have asked me like, hey, there's a PS5 Pro coming out, John, what do you think the price is going to be? I'd probably been like, maybe 600, and they bring the price of the base model down. 600 would have been like the absolute, like, you can maybe sell it because the PS5 Pro is still it's still $500 if I'm not mistaken, the regular PS5. But yeah, I mean, to not show that, that's right, because they do a diskless drive, but to not show those little minor details, I'm like, man, that's really lackluster. Just the presentation was short. I wish they would have shown more, talk about specs a little bit more. Cyrus, what about you? What was your initial reaction to the trailer?
Well, if you don't mind, I'm just going to back up just a little bit. Pickyo Gamer brought up the game rambling stuff when we were heavily discussing the possibility of the Neo, and then ended up being the PS4 Pro. And now, at that time, there was a lot of like hemming and hawing about, do we need this? The justification for it was, well, for PSVR, you really need more power. And the PS4 could only do 1080p, but the PS4 Pro could output a 4K signal. Now, was it native 4K? That, you know, whatever. There was probably a couple games that might have been native 4K, but mostly it was some magic or whatever. But the point is, they added RAM to that system. They added a whole like double the GPU capability. They added functionality for PSVR to make things better. There was a reason to do that upgrade, and I talked so much crap about that. I was like, "Who would buy this? Why would you buy this?" And blah 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 blah. And then I bought it. And so I understand. Well, I'm the worst about that, but I understand FOMO. I understand thinking I'm going to miss out on something that is pretty cool, right? So my initial reaction, I guess I'm going into this new video talking about the PS5 Pro, and I'm remembering why we needed a PS4 Pro, and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, I just don't understand why we need a PS5 Pro. Like, I just don't, you're not making sense to me. If you're going to sell me on this, there needs to be a real tangible reason. Like, what is that thing going to do that my PS5 can't do? Is it that much better? Because I don't think it is. I mean, I think, yeah, it's got 45% more GPU. Sure. My freaking PC right here probably has 45% more GPU than my PS5. But does that mean my PS5 is not capable? I mean, we've barely had, how many games have we had that even really use the power of the PS5? Like, pretty much everything that's come out is actually a PS4 game that's running a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
the first party stuff I feel like utilizes it pretty well, but I know what you're saying.
Well, yeah, I'm saying, like, if I buy the Spider-Man 2, or if I buy, you know, God of War Ragnarok, or if I buy whatever, you know, Astrobot or whatever, it's not like it's going to run like crap on my PS5, you know? I'm pretty sure when I buy Grand Theft Auto 6, when it comes out maybe next year, or maybe whenever it comes out, it's probably going to run fine on my PS5. Now, is it going to run 120 frames per second at 4K? No, but it's also not going to do that with these specs on the PS4 Pro or PS5 Pro. So and by that time, by the way, and maybe 2 years, are we really gonna not be talking about a PS6 coming out pretty soon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't see why this even had to happen. I don't understand why it happened. I'm still confused about it. Like, there was no pressure from Microsoft. Are they worried about Are they worried about Nintendo? I mean, why is this happening? I'm
So
confused.
one of the things that Cerny brought up, and to that point, one of the things that Cerny brought up was the reason why they did this is because gamers select. It's funny. He said they choose to select performance mode. I think he said 60% of the time.
70. I
But
think it's 75.
yeah, it's really
75 or something
high.
like
But
that. Yeah.
their reason for doing this was to have fidelity mode, which is that better graphics run at a higher frame rate. But you just told us that people are choosing to play the performance mode. People are choosing
Yeah.
performance over fidelity because that means more to them. So that tells them that graphics really aren't the most important thing. And I mean, to console gamers, it really isn't. I mean, like I have friends who have PCs and they choose to get these games on PS5 because it's just more convenient for them. And it's like, well, I just can sit down, pop it in. I mean, I don't really have to worry about anything, or they want the physical version of it. So, what? Yeah, what is the reason behind this? I don't know. I really that's the question. You know, you go back to years ago when you guys used to talk about this on Game Ramblings, and I feel like it made more sense then, and even then, it still didn't make a lot of sense to us because that was the first time these iterative consoles were even talked about. It had never been done before. I mean, you had like different slim models and stuff like that, but that's not the same thing as like an upgraded version plays the same games. So it was different then. And like you said, you had the PS4 Pro. That made sense because of the VR. The original Xbox One was a very underpowered machine. So I feel like Xbox kind of needed
Oh yeah.
the One X.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it made sense for them as well.
So, hey, let me ask you guys a question. And Pickle Gamer, maybe you're a very technical guy. Maybe you can kind of help all of us understand this. Is there some okay? I'm wondering if the reason that this needs to happen isn't what they're saying. Like, the chips and everything that's in the regular PS5, is this being phased out by AMD? Like, is there some reason why they need to change to something else because of the cost of the old stuff that's being phased out? I mean, is there some, I don't know if I'm making sense, but because none of this makes sense, but I'm wondering what's really going on here. Like, why is this happening? Because I can't make sense of this. What are you reading between the lines is what I'm wondering. Like, what's going on?
Well, I mean, they came out with a PS5 Slim, and I think that had a cheaper chip already. So they've already hit a cheaper chip and a cheaper design. I mean, if you look at it, they tore it apart. That they did, even the heat sink is not as big because they don't need that as much because it's slimmed down. But this, I don't think you're reaching here. Can't see why they're doing this other than they've done it before. People expected it. And here we can release this again and charge $700, not including a drive and not including another stand. And I think they just are trying to. I think they're just catering to the Sony people, which Microsoft did it too for the Xbox people at one time. And I don't doubt that Microsoft may bring out a bigger Series X at one time. I mean, they're bringing out. If you don't know, remember they're already launching a Series X without a disk drive and 2 terabytes of space,
Yeah,
and it's
that's true.
$600.
Well, I'm just so
I
confused by
don't
this.
understand. Microsoft is their own thing, but Sony, I think they're just kind of rolling with the punches and coming through there and saying, "Hey, it's time for the upgrade. We did it with the PS4 Pro. Let's do it with the PS5 and see how it goes." And
Do you
because I
do you
mean,
think
PSVR 2 is actually not doing that good. From what
They kind of don't care about it, right?
yeah.
Do you think this might be related to something Nintendo's doing? Like, do you think Sony might be like, they know a little something about what Nintendo has planned, and they're like, hey, we got to make sure our console is at this level because we're pretty sure Nintendo's going to come in here on their next thing, and we don't want to be close to that. We want to be way over here. I mean, I don't
Nintendo
know.
doesn't do power anymore. They don't. And the thing
Yeah.
about it is, you know, they're putting out a new Switch. I mean, I think that's like the worst kept secret in the industry. They're not putting out a standalone console. There's already leaks about, you know, what it specs, its RAM, and I've not made many videos because I don't want to chase all those rumors, but I don't think Nintendo's going to come close to any of the power of the
Right.
PS5 or the Series X. I just think Sony is looking for more money and just to make, you know, put out a new system. I think they're just looking
Right.
for cash grab.
Do you think it's possible they just want to have a new SKU because they don't want to? They like when Nintendo's going to have a new one, right? And Microsoft has new ones, like you said. They may not be better, but they're new, and they don't want to be the only brand that doesn't have a new SKU. Do you think that might?
Maybe that could be part of it too. To say, hey, we got a new one out, and you know they'll be out for Christmas, and hopefully they don't have the fucking shortage they did before. Of course, there's no chip
Oh,
shortage now. You
well,
know, can they produce enough? Will the
I think,
scalpers do it?
well,
You
I
know,
think there will be a shortage, but I think it's going to be manufactured because, I mean, Sony has an idea how many of these they're going to sell. So they're not going to make, 10 million of them for their first run. They're going to make what they know sells, I think, because like you said, there's going to be FOMO. People are going to want to get them. The diehard Sony fans are obviously going to buy these, but it's an interesting theory that you bring up, Sai, and as far as like any dated hardware, the PlayStation has pretty capable, very current hardware in it. Even the GPU still running on pretty. I mean, it's a 16 gigabyte graphics card in the PS5, and this is 45% faster. I think they said. So I think it's more along the lines as what Picule Gamer said. I think this is just more of a they somehow think there's this group of people in console gaming, and maybe there is, that are always trying to get the best graphics and watch the Digital Foundry move, videos and see what look what the PS5 does versus PC.
Mm.
I'm at a loss for
trying to
words,
come
really.
out.
Yeah,
Or they're trying to come out before Xbox does, because I mean, Xbox. I don't doubt that they'll try to put out a Pro system, a Series X Pro, or whatever the hell they want to call it. I mean, I don't see that. If they don't, I'd be surprised.
I actually would be surprised because they're living and dying by the Series S right now, and I feel like they don't want to let that go. And I think if they put a Pro console out, then your Series X now becomes your Series S, and then that has to go by the wayside. Is that where you're going to have developers program for three consoles?
Exactly.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
they're having enough problems as it is. But let's talk about price. So I watched I watched this, and I saw $700. And the first thing I looked for was if there was a disc drive, and that the first thing I noticed was there was no disc drive. Okay. And then you see at the very bottom, the stand sold separately. So the original PS5, if I recall, gives you a stand. I bought one. They give you a stand for
it. Flip it either way. Yeah.
It's like a $5 plastic stand. Are we getting to, do you think this is, and my question to you guys is, now the specs in it are pretty good. I did some comparisons of like PC comparisons, and to build a PC equivalent to what the PS5 Pro has in it would probably cost you around the same $700 to $800, but probably closer to $800. With the PC, though, you can always upgrade later on. So what they have in the console is It's impressive. I mean, for what they're doing with it. But do you think this is more of Sony just we need to make money off of these, or is this kind of like where we're going as far as console pricing goes? Like, are we going to see next gen consoles be $700-800?
Yeah, I firmly believe this doesn't go back. This is only going to this is the new standard. And this is probably going to mean that the next Switch will be more expensive than what we thought. And it's the new Xbox, whenever that comes out, will be more expensive. This is going to affect pricing probably on everything. In fact, it might even affect PC pricing, because you don't go backwards. You know, it just goes up. You know, inflation doesn't deflate for this.
Do you think though? Do you think though, if console pricing does start to go that way, do you think you'll see more gamers being pushed towards the PC side of things? Because that's kind of how I look at it. I feel like once you're at like a breaking point, people are just going to go, I'm just going to buy a PC at this point. I spent $200 more. I have a high-end powered PC that I can upgrade.
There's definitely a lot of gamers that are going to do that, and they've already been pushed because of the prices that have raised for the services. So there's a lot like me. I don't have any services anymore, and I'm planning to do all my online gaming on that thing because of that. So there's definitely a lot of us that are going to say, screw it, let's play on PC, and then maybe I'll have a console, but I'm not doing all this on console. I have I have reasons for having the console. I mean, and the main thing is, let's just be frank about this. PC doesn't work very well in the living room. It just doesn't. Like, they haven't ever figured that out for some reason.
So someone's going to figure it out. It's either going to be Steam or Xbox. One of them's going to do it. The groundwork's already there. You look at the Steam Deck. Just make a console.
I'm not
out of
disagreeing.
That, it's there.
I'm not.
Yeah.
It can be done. It just hasn't taken off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that concept is just not great for the living room. So people want to play games in the living room. So consoles do that. That's what you have consoles for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where Nintendo understands this better than anybody. That experience doesn't need to be that level. It never did. It never needed to be the cutting edge, bleeding edge of technology. That experience just needs to be accessible to the family and good enough to where you feel like you're getting a really good experience. And that's why I'm so confused, because the PS5 is fine. I don't know why. I can't figure this out. I'm like, you really think that? Okay, Mark Cerny's showing off like improved detail in the distance. If you look around the character and look back behind and see that back over there, that looks sharper. I'm like, who gives a shit about that plays console games?
Yeah,
like,
PC gamers care about that stuff, but console gamers typically don't.
Yeah, there's difference. You're, sitting a foot from your monitor, you're going to notice differences. But when you're sitting, like I said, I got a 40 or a 40, I said 40-inch TV. I actually have a 47-inch, 4K TV. It's not even a high-end model. I mean, I'm sitting back probably 15 feet from it, maybe 10 feet. I'm not going to notice the difference.
No.
I'll notice frames per second, stuttering, stuff like that.
These TVs, these big TVs, pretty much every one of them, regardless of what it says on the box when you buy it, they max out about 60 frames per second. Now,
unless
some
you
of
buy
them
the high ends that do 120 hertz. Yeah, mine's a
Right.
60 hertz TV, and I don't give a shit. I don't care.
So again, it just so I don't know what is up with this. This Microsoft has been obsessed with the power narrative forever, and Sony's trying to keep up with that for some reason, which I don't even understand. Honestly, I think, was it John? Maybe you said earlier, this is a cash grab. This is like a way. Okay. So this is a way to just bleed some extra money out of those hardcore PlayStation ponies. I mean, I don't know what else to think, because there's no reason for it to exist. It's just there to be like a trophy for these hardcore fanatics. And they don't care. They're going to buy the disk drive. They're going to buy the stand. They're going to, you know, and they're going to have this set up and they're going to put it, you know, to where you can see it in the background when they make videos and stuff. And they'll act like it's the best thing in the world. And the reality is, most of the games will see no difference, or maybe a difference that you won't even be able to perceive anyway.
Right, because it's
So,
all, you know, you're asking, will the developers make a pro mode? They're
yeah,
like, fuck it, I don't have time to do it. We're making it work on a PC. We're making it work on a PlayStation 5. We're making it work on two stupid Xboxes because Microsoft
right.
split them up. You want us to put another mode in? No, it's going to work on a PS5 and your pros will be fine.
Here's another thing I want to bring up. There's not more RAM. So
It's
you've
faster
got,
though. It is faster.
it is okay. So it is
It is a
faster
little,
RAM.
yeah, I did look
Okay.
that up.
So maybe that
Oh,
will
they
help
did change
because
the
I was
RAM.
like,
They
it's,
sped up the RAM. The speed of the RAM is a little bit higher, like over 500 megabits per second versus 400 something. I don't remember it, but I noticed that, and it does have 2 terabytes of storage.
oh, that's good
So,
too. That's good
but
too.
like John has said before, storage is cheap. Yet console makers want to act like if you add a terabyte of storage, there's a C note right there. I mean, Microsoft, like I said, they're bringing out that new Series X with 2 terabytes of storage, and it's $600. Well, okay, whatever. You
I mean, you can
can,
buy your own. I mean, not with, see, that's Microsoft's a different story with the hard drives, but with Sony, you can put any, uh,
SSD in there.
yeah, SSD in there that you want. And, I put a terabyte in mine. You could put a 2 terabyte in there. They're pretty cheap now. They're not bad
Yeah,
like they used to be. But anyway, yeah, it's like, when is this thing coming out? When is it supposed to release?
November
November.
7th.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know, man. Like, how many are they gonna make? This is this like a limited run type of thing where there's only the ones they're making this holiday season and that's it, or are they gonna keep making this? Is this the
I just looked up,
replacement?
how many PS4 Pros they sold?
No, I don't.
15 million.
That's a
Well,
lot, actually.
honestly, there was a reason
But
for that. Like,
that was $399.
it was $399 and
half
it
the
did
price
4K.
almost,
There,
yeah.
like we said, there was
Yeah, but
reasons
I
with them.
mean, you think about it, that's 14.5. I'm looking at it here, 15 million out of the whole sale of 117 million PS4s. So
Well,
it's going to be a little niche system that certain
yeah.
people, Cyrus, that bought the thing. But I
I'm not
mean,
buying one of these. Okay, I'm
no,
not.
I
What
just
if
aggravate
what
you.
if GameStop gives you $400 for your PlayStation
Okay, so
5?
this is what we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. Apparently that's what's going to happen. They're giving people like $400 for a PS5, and then it's like, okay, so if I did that, now I have to come up with another 300 plus the CD drive or and that's the thing. Those drives are selling out everywhere. Like, it's like you're not even going to be able to get the disc drive, and they don't apparently
No.
want you to get the disc drive. So
I think the scalpers
I'm
are
just
grabbing
gonna,
them up. I've already seen them on eBay for double the
yeah.
price.
Honestly, I'm fine with my PS5 because what do I do on my PS5? I mainly play PS4 games on my PS5. Only have a few PS5 games, like, and most of them are like indie titles or like collections of retro games and stuff, and it just happens to be the PS5 version or whatever. I don't need a better PS5. I know that I'm not really a modern gamer in that, in this respect, so I'm not really the right person to evaluate, you know, what you would need a PS5 Pro for, I guess. But for me, I mean, I'm not going to get rid of my PS5, but I definitely don't have any desire or want. I feel completely differently about this than what I did about the PS4 Pro. That I was trying to talk myself out of, because I was like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I did it, and then I was very happy that I did. I actually really liked it, but there was reasons to do that. This I don't see any reasons. This I just see as like silly and elitist, and like something that I think is just some, one of the things I don't like about the gaming community is how people will have to have the best thing out there and then lord it over other people. Like, oh, you didn't get it? Oh, okay. Well, I guess whatever for you, but, and I see this happen in the retro community. I see this happen in, the consoles or PC master race. It's this elitist attitude of like, I've got to have the best thing. And not just that I have to have it, I have to then make sure everybody knows that I got the best thing. And they, you've only got a 3060. It's like, I don't like that type of attitude. And, but I respect that people want to have the best. I get that. But in this case, I just think I don't even know what real the benefit you're going to get from having a 45% more powerful GPU. How much of a benefit is that even going to be? Because if Microsoft has been held back with the Series S, you know what I'm saying? Sony's now introduced that dynamic into the PS5. How many developers are really going to be like, yeah, we better make sure this PS5 Pro, if there's only going to be, like you said, Mike, a very small percentage that even buy the damn thing in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessary. It's the same. It's not maybe faster RAM, but it's the same amount of RAM. It puts out the same video signal. It's the same resolution. You might have a possibility of better frame rate, but for TV, how much better frame rate do you need? It starts to get into just silly territory. It's crazy.
That's the thing. Because I bought a 1X when they came out. I had one pre-ordered, and just because I didn't like I said, the original Xbox was just too underpowered, so I felt like a 1X made sense at the time. And I remember getting it, and of course, all the Microsoft stuff would have their 1X. I forget what they called it, but it was like the 1X upgrades that you could do. But all your third party stuff, I remember thinking like it's the same. Like they're not doing anything different to it. It was all just Microsoft doing it, and there were so many more games last generation that were first party AAA games on Xbox and PlayStation, especially on the PlayStation side. Now you have a handful of almost said PS1. You have a handful of PS5 first party exclusives. Maybe two handfuls over the last 4 years. Is the extra $300 worth a few extra? Mostly you're just going to see some extra frame rates in the majority of your games that aren't the first party stuff.
Yeah, and we're not talking about games that ran bad, that needed a massive improvement. They already are fine. What we're talking about is like, oh, but wouldn't it be great if they got even better? And it's like, well, okay, but they were fine.
Did you catch that? When Cerny was doing his comparisons, he goes, and you could see on the original ones has 30 frames per second how choppy it is. And I was like, when did 30 frames per second become choppy? It's not choppy. It's 30 frames per second is fine. Especially on a console, and even on a computer. If you had just enough to run a game at 30
I think the
frames,
PC Master Race people got to Cerny.
I guess it's like it's choppy. It's 30 frames per second. It's choppy. We got to please spend $700.
I'll tell you what, 30 FPS on a console never felt choppy to me. 30 FPS didn't feel choppy to me until I started playing games at like 120, 140 FPS. When you go from that to 30, that's a huge difference, and you do notice that. But if you're on a console, like Cyrus said, if you're getting 60, if your TV does 60, most of them do, I think. 60 is probably standard at this point. But the majority of TVs don't go higher than that. Unless you really buy a high-end like OLED TV or $1,000 TV, most of these are just locked at 60 hertz. So you're really not going to notice going from 60 to 30. It's not a huge jump.
No. A lot of times the TV's got smoothing technologies in there to where it actually makes it to where it helps you with, the frames per second. I thought that was funny. Him sitting there saying look how choppy this is. I'm like, it don't look choppy to me. It just looks like you see the 60 is a little bit smoother. Okay, Cerny.
I know what choppy is. I had an N64. I still have an N64. That's choppy. I love the N64, but that's choppy. But I'll tell you what, I also love the N64 and have had great times playing that console. And just because your frame rate doesn't have to be whatever the maximum that it could be. It doesn't have to be 120, 240, some crazy wild number for you to enjoy your game. John, you're right. If you do see a game running at that super fast frame rate, like the new Doom, like you guys are talking about, I was playing it on my consoles and at 60 frames per second, it looks amazing. I was like, this is great. This is amazing. I have no complaints about this. And then I played it on my PC at 120, and I was like, holy crap, that's even way, way better. But does that mean it's not going to be fun playing it at 60 in the living room on my big TV?
No.
I'm still going to have a blast playing, and my big TV only does 60. So it's not going to, whatever power you want to put in the console, that's not going to get any better than that if that's where you're using that power. But where are you going to use that power? Because other than adding some extra detail, but what we're talking about apparently from Mark Cerny's words is really frame rate. And again, if the game's already run at 60, then that's, what are we talking about? You know, it's just a strange situation. It's, I don't know. I don't know how to, I don't feel good about it. I really don't. And there's no need for it. It's just, it really is concerning because it's almost like this arms race. You know, we've got to do this because they did that, or they might do that. So we've got to, you know, but why? Like, it's one thing if there's a reason, like if you're like, hey, we've got to do 4K, or we've got to support the PSVR, or we've got, you know, there's some reason why you need that power because there's an issue with the original Xbox. Okay, games aren't, we're struggling here. We really need an upgrade to the One X, and then everything's fantastic. Everybody loved the One X because it fixed the problems. You know, what are the problems of the PS5? What's wrong with it? I don't understand. I'm kind of repeating myself, but I'm just confused.
It's almost like they're trying to. This goes back to what we talked about probably a few episodes ago when we were talking about how suddenly PS consoles almost one day woke up and decided we're going to try and compete with PC.
Yeah, that started after the 360 era.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of part of that mentality now. Because I don't, for no other reason can I think of why they would do that. Because you're right, Cyrus. There's nothing wrong with the PS5. There's nothing wrong with the Series X. Those are incredibly powerful consoles. And the fact that those are $500 when they came out, I mean, Microsoft is losing money on theirs. I think that was made public. They don't make anything when they sell a console. I don't know about Sony. I would guess with what's under the hood, probably not, because for them to put what's in those consoles for 500 is an insanely good. You talk about like your cost per value or whatever it's called. It's very good. I mean, you can't get, I mean, most graphics cards that's going to be as good as a PS5 are going to run $350, $400 just for the card, So yeah, there's nothing wrong with those consoles. Focus on making games that we want to play. That's where Nintendo has really done, you know, a phenomenal job and really set themselves aside. I did see, going back to that aspect, I did see, you were talking about price earlier, Si. I did see somewhere that the new Switch actually is rumored to be $500 when it launches. So if that is the case, that'll be really interesting to see what's in that. Nintendo doesn't sell consoles at a loss, so we know that. But it'll be interesting to see what's under the hood of that thing if that thing does come out and it's $500.
I got a feeling it's going to be pretty good. I got a feel, and I think that Sony knows that. I think Sony has some information about what's going on with the new Switch or whatever it's going to be called.
I mean, it's been out for what, 7 years? It's 7 years now.
Yeah. They've sold 143 million units.
That's insane.
And everybody's like, you know,
is that the highest selling system, the Switch?
No, I was looking that up as you guys were talking. The PS2 sold 155, so it's still
getting
not
close, man.
but I think it's outright. I think it's one of the highest Nintendo, if not the highest. And like it surpassed a bunch of them. It just kept going. It just keeps selling. And you know,
amazing.
Nintendo is showing that that's how you do it. You make a console, you make the games that sell the console, and then people come and make games for your console, and that's what a console is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be competing with a fucking computer. You know, back in the 360 era, that's one of the best. I thought the 360s is one of my top three consoles of all
Yeah.
time. And yeah, you had PC games on it, but they just made them work. I mean, they made them work on it. And the PS3 was the same, but you had a lot of PS3 and Xbox console games. And then after that, when they came out with the PS4 and the Xbox One, it was like, we got to compete with the computer, the PC, and that's been the stupidest thing they've done. And Nintendo's like, no, we're still gonna make consoles. You know, they're the only true console maker left to me.
Well, I think Nintendo's the only one that understands what they should be doing, because it seems like Sony has been throwing crap at the wall to see what sticks for a long time, and Microsoft has been flailing like a dead fish in a boat. Like they just try. They don't even know. Like one minute they're talking about, we don't even need an Xbox because you could just play on the cloud and figure that out. And then they're like, no, we're going to bring out a new Xbox. And people are like, what? You just said we didn't need an Xbox. And now, like, they don't know. Like, at least Sony, up until this, I really felt like, okay, at least they know how to do what they're doing. But now I'm like, do they know what they're doing? Because this really calls into question, what is the strategy here? And what does this say about the PlayStation 6 possibilities? Because John, I think the public's reaction to this console is going to paint the future of what Sony does and what Microsoft does, because they're locked. Those two are locked together. But Nintendo, that they're not. They're just going to do whatever they do.
I think Microsoft is starting to get to a point where they're entering almost like a territory where they're going to start doing their own thing as well. One of the telling things that Spencer said, I think it was like last year, was when he outright said, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was talking about that space game that came out, and he said there's no way we're going to out console Sony, and there's no way we're going to out console Nintendo. And I was like,
he did say that, yeah.
That's interesting that he just said that publicly when he's in the business of making consoles and video games. So I think you're going to see Microsoft shift a little bit. I don't think there will be. I would be shocked if there would be a Xbox Series X Pro or something like that.
Well, there's this rumor that they're working on the OS, like changing the OS to be like a basically
Windows hybrid, isn't it?
Windows. They're talking about bringing Windows to the Xbox, and then this is I think if they
Imagine
could
if you
make
could put
that
Steam
work,
on that.
that's what they're talking
Yeah.
about. And what they're trying to do, what I think they're trying to do, is finally embrace this idea that you're talking about earlier, John, about the TV situation, bringing the Xbox, bringing the PC to the living room through the Xbox, instead of, like, it's kind of like a reverse way of doing things from what they had been trying to do things. Instead of taking Xbox and putting it to the PC, they're talking about putting the PC to the Xbox, which is, I think, if you could make that work, that could be pretty cool, because the PC needs to get into the living room. It really does. Because here's the thing I want to say. Physical media is going away. We know that. It's been going away. If you go to the stores, you can see it's happening in a major way already. It's just going to get harder and harder to find physical media. Sony's not trying to build physical, CD drives into their consoles anymore. Microsoft's really trying not to as well. Nintendo, they do their own thing with whatever they do anyway. But when physical media is gone and there's no shelf space in stores or on online stores like Amazon and stuff being taken up by this library of physical stuff that people can buy, and it's all digital and everything's completely digital. And PC's been that way for a while as far as software and stuff like that. But when that happens, then it's like, okay, how do people like find out about your stuff? Like, you know, in the old way of doing things, you go to the store, oh, there's that, and you know, we'll buy that for the kids, and you know, put that back in the closet for Christmas and stuff, blah blah blah. All that changes. The way people share games, the way people buy games for other people, the way people build their libraries, and all this kind of stuff changes. PC needs to get into the living room because otherwise it's going to sit at a desk somewhere, and the family's not going to gather around the desk to play video games.
No.
You know, so it's very interesting, this idea of Windows coming to Xbox. You know, they've been trying to do this since the 3DO. You know, this is something they've been trying to do forever. And if it could be done, I mean, it sounds like a pretty good idea, because I would love to see PC gaming become more mainstream for everyone, you know, and not just for guys like us, you know, not just for people that are more like hardcore about, you know, that kind of stuff and use PCs. I mean, a lot of kids don't even have a PC. They don't even, you know, they do everything on their phone. You know, they don't have, you know, anything like that. So anyway, I just think it would be interesting to see how that develops, because up until this point, all we've heard about is Xbox is going to become an app. You know, you're going to do it all in the cloud and all this kind of stuff. And I don't think people even want that. I think some
No, I don't
people
think
do
so.
because it's, yeah, I just don't think it's I mean, Stadia was this absolute failure, you know, and every streaming service that you know, the Microsoft streaming stuff, the PlayStation streaming stuff, it's not popular. It's just not.
We
Now,
don't
is
have
that,
the infrastructure to support it.
yeah, and will we maybe eventually? Sure, that'll eventually happen, but you know, it's like they're trying to cram this in because they desperately want to get away from physical media and they want to control everything. They don't even want you to download the games. They don't want you to have anything. They want to completely control that. And they're trying to force that. And it's just not, this is not the time for that. But it's also not the time for a PS5 Pro. So I don't know. What
So-
is
You know,
the time?
you're go ahead.
So you're gonna get one in December then, Si?
No, I'm not going to get a PS5 Pro.
He'll
Why would I
wait
get
till
a
January.
PS5 Pro? Dude,
I just
who
messing
can,
with you.
who can even afford to be a console gamer anymore? You got to spend $700, then you got to spend another $100 to get your stand and your CD drive for CD for DVD Blu-rays.
How much do those stands? How much do those stands go for?
30.
30.
30,
So
30
the
bucks.
and the disc drive is 80. If you can manage to get
Yeah.
one off Amazon
$810 before
before
tax.
tax.
Yeah.
6%
And
here
then-
in Pennsylvania. I don't know where it is everywhere else.
So I don't, and then on top of that, now they've raised all the prices on the services. So, I'd like to play.
Did you see the controllers went up $5 on Sony?
Controllers went up. Yes, yes.
Just out of the blue, they just decided to raise the price of these high ass controllers.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Like everything, it's like they just think that they can just bleed everybody dry, and we're all just going to be fine with that. But like you said, John, yes,
$30 wired Microsoft Xbox One controller with Rumble. I use it for my PC.
so
I have
many
to buy
of us.
one a year because they last a year and they break.
Well, yeah, but that's how all the controllers are. Even the expensive ones, even the
So I don't buy the
PS5.
expensive ones anymore.
Yeah.
Depends on how many.
That's crazy.
Depends on how much Elden Ring I'm playing. If I play a lot of Elden Ring, I'll break it faster.
So I don't want to be super negative. We're being very negative here, right? There's a lot of concern. I think if I was to look at this from a positive point of view, I would say I think that the PS5 Pro is going to sell really well, but there's only going to be so many made. So
Well, that's
It's
just
going
it.
to sell all those. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be sold out, but that's because there's not going to be that many made. And I think that the people that get them will probably be very happy with them. But I think that most people, most gamers, have no reason to get them. And the only real motivator is just FOMO. What else is there to do? Why are you
I'm
getting it?
wondering if the Switch 2 comes out and steals its thunder. You know, if they show that thing off here, the rumors are this month or now maybe next month, because there's some stuff has happened in some of the rumors for the Switch 2, like they've been filming, you know, a presentation for it. You know, they moved up all their directs. They usually have one for September. They moved it up to August. So why are they moving all this stuff up to get it out of the way? And announcing, you know, they announced some, I think they announced some new bundles with the OLED model. But if they come out and show the Switch 2 out, it could take all the thunder out of the PS5 Pro to where it's just the elitists that want it. I mean, I'm very excited for a Switch 2 because it is the most used console in my house. Just because we just like it. I mean, my daughter likes the Xbox. We play on the Xbox as well because she has Game Pass. I got it for her. You know, I pay for it, and it does really well. And my PS5 got to so much dust on it that I sold it back to GameStop and ended up getting an Oculus Quest 3 for her and us to play on. And there's not a lot of stuff coming out on the PlayStation. They're not. They act like they have this magical platform, but they don't have the exclusives like they did in the PS4 era even. It's just not there. They just came out with Astro Bot, and it's like getting ungodly good reviews. That's great. You come out with something once ever so often, it's like it doesn't sell the systems to me.
Yeah, I think last year was Spider-Man 2 was the big release. Aside from that, I really don't know what. Stellar Blade came out, I want to say the beginning of this year, but that's going to be on PC in a few months. And they have Astrobot, where I feel like last generation, and then going back to the PS3, the further back you go, the more and more exclusives are where they sell these consoles, and now they just don't have them. So I mean, let's say hypothetically I wanted to upgrade, and I have just money to waste because I could just throw $700 at a console, buy the stand, buy the disc drive, trade in my PS5. Even then, I'd have to consider like, well, is it even still worth it at that point? Because you get a handful of games that you're going to really have a different game, a different experience on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard sell, man. It's a hard sell, but
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I think we can all agree on is it's going to sell because Sony is going to just put out so many they know. But it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward with console pricing. I think this might, unfortunately, set a different standard moving forward.
I think so too.
So, Mike, any final thoughts on the PS5 Pro? We could jump into some of these other topics. I think we've pretty much. I've said all I can say about it.
We've hammered this to death. I mean, it's just. I think it's a waste. I think it's not gonna. I don't even see why they made it other than as a cash grab.
I said in my video they lost their mind, and it was just the arrogance of Sony at this point.
You know, they do this every other generation. They'll do this. They'll underperform, and then they'll do really good, and then they get arrogant and they do stupid stuff, and they lose the audience, and then they got to get the audience back again, and then it's just every other generation.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of good games, none of you guys have played this, but I feel like it's interesting to point out because this kind of goes in. I want to talk about Black Myth Wukong and also kind of talk about Concord in the same breath here, because we talk about where consoles are going, and we also there's a lot of talk about like, well, where are games going? Like you see the success of Fortnite and all these online MMO type games, battle royale, these massive cash cows, and they make a ton of money. So you see a lot of these developers just pumping these out. And the latest one is Concord, which was a massive failure. This was kind of like Sony's Apex Legends, I guess is the closest thing you can maybe compare it to. This game sold. It was really bad. Should have pulled it up, but it was bad. I think at one point there was only a couple hundred people a week after it was released playing online. It only sold 25,000 copies of this game. And the cost to make this game was the development cost was $130 million.
I'm looking here. It looked like it only sold 25,000 units.
Yep. 25,000 units, $130 million to make the game. Within 2 weeks, Sony is shutting down the servers and refunding everybody who bought the game.
Yeah.
So
I think they jumped into a saturated market. That's what I think. I mean, how many Fortnites do we fucking need? I mean, let's make an online team-based shooter. Okay, great. So it's the same as this. I mean, what was those games that Blizzard made? That shooting game is that I can't remember what the
I know
name
what
of
you're
it
talking
is.
about. Kamikaze plays. He used to play it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think
For
of
some
the
reason,
name. It's fleeting my mind.
old man brain not working.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. But now here's the stark difference of this, right? So you have a brand new developer with, I think this game, Black Myth Wukong, had 40 people working on this game. That's it. I think it was 38 or 40 people. Very small development team for the scale of game this was. Now this is a single player game, no online, no PvP. It's like God of War, right?
Mhm.
This cost them 70 million. The game has already sold 18 million within the first 2 weeks. 18 million copies. And that's only on PS5 and Steam, by the way, because it's not on Xbox yet, which we'll get into here in a minute. We start talking about the Series S. But are gamers starting to make up their mind and being vocal about, like, hey, we want single player games here? I mean, you look at the sales of Black Myth Wukong, and this is going to outsell Hogwarts. It's going to outsell Spider-Man 2. But my question to you guys is, like, is this the gamers finally saying, like, hey, we don't want these crap online games. We still want single player games. Do you think this is a reflection of that?
I have a theory about this. I think that a lot of these type of games, these huge online multiplayer games, are being played by the young people. They like these games, but they're not going to pay for them. Like, they want the free to play model. They don't want to pay for the game, and I think that's what immediately killed this game from Sony, because it's like those games still do Fortnite and all that. They still do very, very well with the kids. They like it. They play on their phones, but they're not going to pay for that. Now they'll pay all the little nickel and dime crap.
Yeah. Hey, mom, can I have
all that.
$5? My kid does that shit to me with Roblox. Like, hey, dad, let me get 800 Roblox for $4. Sure, whatever.
Right. But they're not gonna go, oh, Sony's got a new one out, but it costs, what was it, $35 or something to buy that?
40. I want to say it was 40.
$40. They're not gonna pay $40 just to play it. They want to play it and then decide if they want to put a little money in. Like, they have a totally different mindset about this than what we do. And as far as the single player stuff, that's where the difference is. Like, people that will pay for a game want single player. It's a different audience. It's a completely different audience. So yeah.
I mean, I was in, the one thing I miss not having a PlayStation right now. Of course, they're not going to bring out, I don't think, another God of Wars. I played the God of War games, the new ones, and Ragnarok, and that was just fantastic.
Yeah, it's coming to PC next week. I'm gonna be getting it.
You're gonna love it. I mean, the storytelling and the fucking everything was just like, this is what a game should be. This just made me feel giddy to the point where, this is what games used to be about, storytelling and the world building. And I mean, I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was great. And I think, people that want, these single player games again, or it may be going a cycle. Maybe we're coming back around to where more people are wanting the single player games. We used to have co-op. Co-op used to be a thing, and now it doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
So,
So that's a damn good point about kids and and the difference. I hadn't really ever thought of that, but that is a very good point. So to expand on the Black Myth Wukong thing here, so it made all those sales on Sony and Steam. It's not on Xbox yet, and there's been a slew of rumors. One of the rumors being, and I feel like this probably holds more water than some of the other rumors. There was one rumor that said there was like some, backroom deal done with Sony to make it not launch on Xbox. I don't really believe that. But one of the bigger rumors that's out there, and I think, like I said, this holds water because we've heard this from other developers, is there's a memory leak for the Series S, because the Series S only has like, I think it's 10 gigs of RAM. This is a UE5 game. It uses a lot of the nanite ray tracing. It's an incredible looking game. I mean, it will give most PCs a run for their money. I have a 4070, and I have to actually turn frame gen on. I have to put DLSS on, just so I'm playing over 60 frames per second. The PS5 version, they had to completely take ray tracing out of it so it would run stable on the PS5. But the rumor is this thing's having trouble because Microsoft insists that if it's a game on Series X, it has to also be on Series S. So, do you guys think it's time for Microsoft to maybe start looking at their options here? Because I mean, to me, this almost seems like a trend if this is true. I mean, this seems like it's going to become a consistent problem with Microsoft, especially with these UE5 games.
Honestly, I own a Series S, okay? But Microsoft needs to understand the Series S was a great idea for launching into that next gen. But at a certain point, when Sony's going to have a PS5 Pro that even goes a step further than the PS5, Microsoft needs to say, look, the training wheels need to come off. Like, Series S was a great stopgap console for a lot of people that didn't have the money or weren't sure about the new generation or whatever. At a certain point, you go, okay, some games are just going to be Series X games. Like, I think at a certain point, you're going to have to do that, because otherwise, why do you have that power? You're hamstringing not just what's possible, but you're hamstringing the developers to where they can't even put the damn game on your system at all. Like Black Myth Wukong, no Xbox version, really? No Xbox version, or a Series X version? Because that's the choice. No version, or you're going to have some games that are only for Series X. And I think it's time to say, look, guys, we're going to have to phase out the Series S. It's a good console, but it can't do everything. It's still going to run everything up to a certain point, but there's going to be stuff that we say, this is, if Sony's going to do pro stuff, right? I don't see any reason why Microsoft can't do Series X exclusive stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Why not? You think you're going to,
I'm curious, and I totally agree with you, by the way. I think Microsoft, one of the reasons why they haven't done that is they're afraid they're going to piss off their loyalists.
The
but
loyalists
like you
have
said,
Series X's.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And, Microsoft, in their defense, like, they've done a good job actually porting their stuff to the Series S, because those are like in-house developers. They have a team there. It's like taking like Doom and getting it to run on the Switch. Like, these Microsoft guys who are in-house, they can do this with their first party stuff. They did it with Hellblade. Hellblade looks phenomenal on the Series S. Now, it's like a walking simulator. And you could argue that, and that's UE5 too, by the way. So you could argue that, like, there's not as much going on in that game, but let just the first party stuff be Series S and X, and don't force these developers into having to work with two platforms, because
Dude, I own I was a big TurboGrafx guy, okay? And the TurboGrafx did upgrades where they would bring out
yeah,
a new system card, okay? Or add a CD add-on or whatever. They had all these different upgrades that they would do. The Genesis had the 32X, right? There was upgrades that happened for different consoles. The N64 had the RAM expansion, okay? Sometimes you need to make games that take advantage of what's possible on your hardware. And sometimes, like if in this case, you've got a base console that's just not cutting it and it's holding everything back and it's really just very limited. It's time to legacy that out and say, look, it's been a great run. It's still going to run a lot of stuff. It's still going to run everything that it has run up to this point. And there's going to be new stuff that comes out that does support it, but there's going to be exclusive stuff for that next step. Okay. My TurboGrafx, there's so many awesome games that come out for the Super CD. You got to have the Super System card, or you got to buy the Duo. You can't just do it on the TurboGrafx. Or what? I mean, is that like every TurboGrafx person is pissed? No, everybody's was like, oh, I guess I got to buy the new thing, and that's what would happen to me if I'm an Xbox gamer who has a Series S and has loved it, and they say, okay, there's these exclusive games now that need that better hardware. And I go, oh, well, now I guess I need the better hardware because up to this point, I haven't needed it. So I was like, well, I'll just go with the cheaper option because I don't care. It's fine. But if I need it, okay, well, that's a different conversation. And if they're worried about pissing off the people that bought the cheap console, you bought the cheap console. like,
yeah,
what did you, like, we don't, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but I'll say, everybody that I know that owns a Series S would not be, doesn't expect to get the premium experience from Xbox. You're expecting it's limited because it's already limited. No matter whether the games are exclusive or not to the Series X, you're not getting that same experience. So even though you might have technically the ability to run any game, you're not. Come on, there's games that there would struggle, would be really bad to try to run on the Series S. I know that, and so if I really care about that, okay, well, I'm going to get the Series X. So all this to me is just Microsoft painted themselves in a corner and refused to try to fix that problem, and it's a very easy fix. You legacy out the Series S, and you say it did its job. We're moving on. You just
it's
do
been
that.
it's been 4 years too, so it's not like it's only been
Yeah.
a couple years. I mean, they shit canned the One X quicker than they did the Series S at this point, because they were quick to do. I was actually pissed off about that because I was one of those people that pre-ordered and backed the One X because it was supposed to have all these upgrades, and then they went as far as to saying like, oh well, yeah, next gen it's still going to support the One X, which was a total bullshit, because then they immediately came out and said, oh, we're discontinuing the One X. So yeah, I think it's time, especially now that they have two SKUs for the Series X, because they have that one with that's no disc, bigger hard drive, and you have the one with the disc, smaller hard drive. So yeah, I think it's time, Microsoft, because at this point, I mean, you got, from what I've heard and from what I've read, is this game's pretty much done on the Series X. Like it can easily, it's basically just a slightly different architecture than the PS5. They changed some minor things. It would basically be the same version of the PS5, but where they're having issues is they can't release it on Series X because it has to be on Series S at the same time, and Microsoft doesn't want that.
Why would you tie your hand behind your back when you're struggling?
Yeah.
You don't have to have that rule. You could just not have that rule and just move on.
But it's
And that's what they should
Microsoft.
do.
They don't know what they're doing. That's the problem.
Well, that's another discussion, I guess. I mean, this is a
I've
company
always
that,
said that Series S was one of the worst decisions they ever made, because I bought one. I was at one time, you couldn't find any of the new consoles, and the Series S started dropping, and I was like, I'll pick one up, see if I can play, some newer stuff on a console, because I was still a console, and I am right now a console gamer. I picked one up, gave it to the daughter. She has it upstairs so she can continue her Game Pass stuff on it. But then I got a Series X, but you know, bringing out, it's like telling people that you have to make something work for the smart kids and the dumb kids at the same time. I know that's a bad thing to say, but it's like you gotta
I get the yeah.
The
you get
Series
the
S needs their
analogies, like
participation trophy.
you know, this thing, the Series S, they brought that
Everyone's a
thing.
winner.
Everybody's a winner. But you know, they brought that thing out. John was right. They brought that thing out to make it to where it's easier to get into Xbox, and it was like an entry level. Well, that's great, but you cannot ask developers that are pushing now UE5 games to come out and take their vision. I mean, they have a vision for their game and shoehorn it on a little piece of shit system that is outdated. It holds back the Series X. The Series X is still, until the PS5 Pro comes out, the Series X has always been the more powerful system on specs. It has a couple more teraflops of power. It has the ability to push this stuff. But Microsoft, like you said, they just tied their hands behind their back and said, here's the little brother who has the dunce hat on his head. Make sure he can run it as well at a lower frame per second, lower resolution. And now they're hitting. I would love to see the developer just say, "Fuck you, Microsoft. We're not doing it,"
I think
and
that's
just
what happened.
let them deal with a loss.
Yeah.
But
Well,
then again,
the
they like
games.
to have the sales. They you know, then
Yeah.
again, they're wanting the sales. So maybe they'll just work and make it happen. But like you said, I think it needs that rule that it has to be on both needs to die right now.
Yeah.
They don't even need it to be on both right now because the game's selling so well. If I'm then, I mean, it cost them $70 million to make this game. They've made over $1 billion on this game. 40 people. They're not going to be in any hurry to
Yeah.
rush this to Microsoft at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, we
think
saw
about
this
the
with Baldur's
position.
Gate too. I think Baldur's Gate went through a similar issue on the Xbox. It came out after the fact because there was a delay getting it on the Series S. I mean, this is a consistent problem now, and you know, you going back to the PS5 Pro thing for a minute, is maybe that's a UE5 thing too. Maybe they're seeing this new engine being used and going, oh crap, this, because I mean UE5 is pushing 4080s, 4090s. I mean, it gives my 4070 a run for its money. I mean, this engine is serious. It's a power hog, man, and the Series S has no business running a UE5 game. I mean, unless it's a watered down version. I mean, now granted, once developers get more used to the engine and they start tweaking things with it and things change, maybe they get better at that. But I think right now it's a problem.
Well, I just think people that bought a Series S were not expecting the premium experience.
Right.
And it was a cheap console. It was a way to get into the next gen and also support your legacy stuff that you have, your digital library from Xbox One and 360 and whatever, those digital games that you have. That's why I got one, more just to support what I already owned, you know, and to kind of dabble a little bit in the next gen see what it was like for that console. Starfield, I was thinking about getting Starfield when I bought it. Of course, I still haven't bought Starfield, but I think I think it served its purpose. And I think if you tell people, hey, we respect very much that you bought this console from us and it's going to continue to run just fine and it'll support all the Microsoft services and it's going to have a library. We're going to continue to put out games for it, but there's going to be games that are just premium games that don't run on it. And I don't see what the problem is. I just don't see what the problem is. If you can do it for all these consoles that have existed, you know, back to when they very first started bringing out enhancement add-ons for consoles, if you can do it and it's fine, what's the problem? You know, you're going to not have games. That's the one thing everybody talks shit about Xbox so much. There's no games. Where's the games? Where, you know, there's a solution to that problem. That's your biggest problem. Not supporting the S. Who gives a shit? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, another thing that we'll watch here closely over the coming months as this develops. Maybe next episode we'll have some news on that. Our final topic, and we'll wrap it up after this one. I feel like it's Groundhog Day all over again. We talk about iterative consoles again, and now GameStop once again. GameStop's getting into the retro market. They've tried this before. I don't know if I'm pretty sure you guys remember this from like 2016, 2017. GameStop had this trade-in initiative, an online initiative of retro games. And this was a disaster back in 2017 when they did it. I made a video on it. Back then, I made a video on it because I actually, we knew what was going to happen. They're going to sell fake carts. There's going to be bad games. You don't know what you're getting. So at the time, I took my little reproduction of Musha to see if they would test it and figure out if it was a repro, and they had no idea. So, I mean, obviously I didn't do the trade-in deal, but this became an issue with GameStop. There was fake games everywhere because these employees aren't trained to catch a fake game. Some of these reproductions, by the way, since 2017 have gotten so good, unless you know specifically what to look for, like on a Nintendo cartridge, there's a line, I think on the one backside of it on certain games. If that line's not there, it's a repro, and that's the only thing you would notice because it was a manufacturing thing that Nintendo did with the carts. So they're back. They're doing this again. There's now supposedly some retro GameStop stores, which I checked one out. I'll talk about here in a minute. But now you can go on their website, buy retro games, trade in retro games. Do you guys think this is going to be a disaster again, or do you think they maybe learn from their mistakes from the first time here?
Well, I
I
mean,
wouldn't trust GameStop for anything retro.
I think you just explained a lot of the problems, John. I don't know what the thing is. Like, this is GameStop is done. They are dying, and they're not going to be around forever. And what they've done, the reason they did this retro thing is they were like, well, they're doing away with all the physical new stuff. We've got to stay in business. Where's physical stuff at? Well, I guess we're going to go sell old physical stuff because there's still some of that out there. But the problem is, if your business is based on trying to build a business based on a dwindling library of available retro stock, you're going to run out of stuff to sell, and you're going to have a lot of these problems like you talked about, John. So nobody trusts GameStop because they've screwed people since they started. There's so many horror stories about GameStop, whether it's, trying to sell you like used games and say that they're new games. We open all the games and all this BS, or it's selling you retro games that are repros or fake games or have issues, or they don't even test stuff properly. They don't, you buy CD games. Cause I remember I bought some PlayStation CD games and they didn't work, and it's like, there's so many issues and you're right. The problem is, there's no way to train the employees to be able to even do this. Like, you can't train your GameStop employees to know all this nuance about retro, old ass 40-year-old cartridges and stuff. There's no way that you could even do that. You would have to employ specialists at your retro game stores that do know, and those people already work at the mom and pop retro game stores. They're not coming to work for you. It's a ridiculous idea, but that's GameStop, and they're out of ideas. And I know some people that work at GameStop, and I like them very much, but guys, this is a business that's not going to be around. And this whole idea with the retro thing, John, how is this even supposed to work? Why would any rational person would go, hey, we did this before and we screwed it up and this is why? And has any of that been addressed? No.
I went to one of the retro stores near me because you can go on GameStop's retro website and see if there's one near you, and there was one.
less than 10 miles from my house. I was like, I'll go for a trip. You know, took the kids with me one Saturday afternoon, had some errands to run. Said, come on, we'll go to GameStop. You know, I honestly didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe a handful of Nintendo, Sega games would have been cool, right? So I get there, and it was one little, I mean, small shelf. Had some Wii games on it, 360 shovelware, Wii shovelware, DS shovelware, pets. There's like 5 of those pets games. You know, remember the old shovelware pets games? I'm like, they had some Hyperkin like Nintendo controllers. I'm like, wow, this is a multi-million-dollar corporation that is so desperate that they're selling Hyperkin products in the store. I mean, that's I used to sell years ago. I did it for a few months. I sold retro games at a flea market on the weekends. I had my own little section set up. And I got an account with Hyperkin. Anybody can get an account with Hyperkin, so you could buy and resell their stuff. And I'm like, man, this is GameStop selling Hyperkin stuff. Yikes.
Well, who's
writing's on
selling
the
their
wall,
stuff?
I think, like you said.
Yeah, like who's selling their crap to GameStop? Because they're not going to give you anything. Like anybody that's selling their stuff is selling it to some other better place, you know?
There's I can think of 3 retro stores within 25 minutes of me.
Yeah.
And they're all very good, and they're all super knowledgeable people. I mean, one of them's a pawn shop that's like the one guy who works at the pawn shop, or maybe is a part owner. He's a huge retro gamer. So half the store is retro games and systems. It's fantastic. But he knows his shit. The other 2 guys I know, they know their shit. I mean, they're hardcore. They're like us, man. Yeah, that's going to be the place to go. And GameStop's, I don't know what GameStop's thinking. Maybe they see the success of Lukey Games and what's that other one, DK Oldies, and they see how they're doing with their online stuff. But even that, I think, is short-lived, and they have issues too. So I think this is one of the last nails in the coffin for GameStop here, because like you said, we talked about, you know, media just going digital. I mean, you're starting to see big box retailers with less and less games on the shelf. Didn't Walmart say not too long ago they were going to stop selling physical media? I mean, that hasn't happened yet, but I mean, they were talking about it. I mean, when Walmart's getting out of the game.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to affect Nintendo though. They're still going to have physical, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It may
Nintendo-
be
Amazon.
Yeah, Nintendo is like a toy company though, right? And people view Nintendo stuff as a different thing than they do. Like, it's just that there'll always be a place for Nintendo. Nintendo will,
maybe
you know, they're going to have physical media because they know they can make so much money, and they know that, you know, so they're going to continue that. But Sony and Microsoft, you know, it's done. I mean, the new PlayStation doesn't even have a drive. You have to buy the drive, and good luck finding them because they're only making a few, and they're probably all sold out already. So, yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just GameStop, you know.
I thought it was hilarious when I saw that they were doing this again. I'm like, it's Groundhog Day all over again. It's like 2017, 2016, all over.
I got a feeling they're going to be done sooner than people think. I think we're going to it's going to sneak up on people. Like, there's going to be an announcement out of nowhere, probably after this holiday season, because things are going to go so bad. Probably sometime in the early spring, they're going to make an announcement about going into bankruptcy or something like that, because this is not going to work out. And this is the one holiday they have to try to get it to work. And if it doesn't work, it's not going to work, and it's not going to work.
Man, I remember going to EB Games and GameStop and all those places back in the early 2000s, late 90s. And they were awesome.
Oh, yeah.
EB Games was huge because I think those were the ones that were in the mall mostly, was EB Games. And then they closed those, and then like GameStop was like the last one left, and that just became a corporate shell.
Man, every time I go into GameStop now, which is rare. I think the last time I went into GameStop on purpose was to get a copy of Animal Crossing, because it was like $8 cheaper used versus new for my kid. But I remember just looking in there and I'm like, man, this place sucks. Like,
Yeah,
you
they
used to
got
go into a
more
GameStop.
collectible stuff.
You used to go into a GameStop in like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and it was just, especially around the holiday seasons, packed, like shoulder to shoulder people in these places. And yeah, sad, man. It sucks. It sucks that this is the way, media is going. But like I said, you still have your mom and pop shops. Thankfully, they're still around. And I mean, the ones near me, they seem to be doing pretty well, actually. The one guy just redesigned his whole store. So
It's because they know what they're doing. And like
yeah.
the reason they have such good stuff is because they know, like, when somebody comes in with a box of stuff, they give them a fair price, and they give them like bonuses, like, oh, if you sell it to us for credit, you'll get this percentage more, and all. They have all these policies that little incentivize people to sell
Yeah.
it to those, and then they want to buy stuff there because they have such good stuff. So it's sort of a self perpetuating thing.
Plus, another
And
thing with
GameStop-
retro gamers going into those types of stores to trade their stuff in is like, you want your stuff to go to like another collector. Like
Right.
when I sold a big chunk of my Genesis collection to get the money to build my PC, like I think you did a deal with the guy too, Si, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
did my
But
Jaguar.
I called him and I was like, hey dude, like, and he actually owns a store now. He opened his own actual physical location. But I knew that was either going to go to him as his collection, which I would have been fine with, or he was going to resell them at a fair price to another retro collector. So I knew they were going to go to a good home, so,
Right.
that doesn't really, GameStop just doesn't care about that stuff. So that's kind of like a personal thing with retro gamers and that. Yeah.
It's just silly to think that GameStop could even do it, because they don't have the expertise to know how to do it. They don't. The people they have working there, they're not. They don't know that stuff. They're not gonna know that stuff, and they're not incentivized to learn that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll tell you what, the GameStop that I love to go to, that I've always been, there's a guy there that I know that runs the store. He's a great guy. He's been there for probably 20 years, like forever. And the last few times that I went in there, he just seemed so, defeated, just so down. And it's because they really don't have any hope. It's that business has been run into the ground. And what we're seeing is the death throes of that business. And that's just the reality. In fact, they should have been gone already, but that weird thing happened with the stock market and all that.
Yeah.
That's
Smash
the only
Smash
reason.
JT got all his money.
Yeah, so you can
He was in a
thank
documentary.
GameStop.
It's a good documentary if you ever want to watch it. I think it's on Hulu. It's
Yeah,
actually
you
really
can thank
good.
this. You can thank this GameStop thing from happening. You can thank Smash JT for that. Thanks, Smash. Way to go. Anyway,
Well, that's a good place to wrap it up. We'll kind of go around the room here and see what you have coming up. Si, what do you got going on with the Rumble channel? Anything new coming?
I mean, I goof around with stuff, this Atari stuff. I did pre-order the Atari 7800 Plus. I'm looking forward to that when that comes in. I've got a pretty good 7800 collection. I've really gotten more into Atari lately.
Is that a what's the emulation that uses hardware? I can't.
FPGA.
Is
No,
it
it's not.
FPGA?
It's not FPGA, but it's official Atari. It plays the cartridges. It uses all the same controllers. In fact, it comes with a wireless controller that's the same style as the old school 7800 D-pad European controller. It's really cool. It's like they really care about what they're doing. This new Atari thing is really going well. I'm very, and they put out a bunch of games, a bunch of new games. Some of them were made by homebrew people, and some of them are newer.
I think I remember seeing this. They announced it like a year or two ago, didn't they? I think I actually.
No, this just got announced a couple.
Yeah, like a month or so ago.
A month
Okay,
ago,
I must have
maybe,
been thinking of something else then, maybe.
You're talking about the 2600 plus, probably.
Yeah.
So this is the same basic thing. It's just in 7800 plus. I'm hoping they do a 5200 plus. We'll see. Probably not. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the retro stuff more than anything. And that's why I said I'm just not much of a modern gamer, you know. But I do got the computer going, John. So
Step one, we're getting there.
step one. And I could play online for free on the computer. So there's that. But yeah, that's what's on my channel. Is just me goofing around with retro stuff. So but
when
what
I
about
upgrade
you?
when I upgrade to a 4080, I'll send you my 4070. I'll guilt you into playing it, damn it.
You won't do that. You need to sell that and make money because you're going to have something else you need to do with that. Don't worry about that. I'm good.
He'll just emulate Atari games on it.
Yeah, I know he would.
I don't need it. Right. Exactly. Like I don't even need what I got in here. I got a 3060 in here and I'm like, for what? I don't know. But Picto Gamer, you've started up Rumble again, right? And
Yeah, like I said, after getting over the surgery and healing, it's been like now 2 weeks. It's almost this Tuesday will be 3 weeks since I've been in the hospital. I'm gonna start looking at different topics and try to put some stuff up on Rumble. And I don't get a lot of views, but at least it's not YouTube and that shithole place that try to put videos out on. And I'll like to do some stuff there, you know. Maybe we'll get back into game ramblings one day. Who knows?
you know, I want to, but it's like I don't have time to do it. You know, it's like
Yeah,
I
you're
want
right.
to, but it's tough. It's tough. But I would love to. We just have to figure that out.
I'm gonna put some content up there. I'm gonna do some brainstorming. I want to talk about the series. Ask me some of these topics here make you want to make some videos and talk about them and just put my 2 cents out there. They're not very. I don't sit there and ramble like I used to. I mean, I usually can get about 5 minutes out of a video and I'm done. I just don't feel like.
I noticed that about you. Like you used to, back when we did game rambling, it was called game rambling because we would just go. Like we would just, you know, rattle for a long time.
Oh.
But I noticed that you're very succinct now. You have like points and then you're like, I'm done. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, I get my ideas and I get them out there and I'm just like, I'm done with it. I mean, I think it just makes better videos than sitting there rambling and going and can hear it. And I don't even use OBS to capture the screen. I just sit there and get my points across and get it done. You know, I think it works better.
yeah.
I enjoyed your 5-minute PlayStation 5 Pro video.
Because I sit upstairs, I work right next to me is my work setup here. I do a monitor setup for work, and I took a little break and went upstairs and turned on the Google TV and I put it on there and when they hit the price, I just laughed out loud. I'm in by myself at home because my wife's at work, my daughter's at school. I just laughed. I said, "You are fucking crazy." I said that to myself. And then I went back downstairs and I just made that video and I saw you made a video and you had your hands up like, what's going on? I mean, we're both, I was like, yeah, he's thinking the same damn thing.
That was the general consensus throughout the internet. I didn't really see one like video where it was like, yeah, that's a good thing. You know, I didn't see any of that.
You know,
Even I think the Sony ponies out there are going, ooh, that's $700.
I've seen a couple of the hardcore like pony people that have tried to be like, yeah, this is not too much and blah, blah, blah. But even on those shows, people the other guys call them out and be like, dude, no, this is way too, like, because this is crazy. $700 for a video game system? I mean, no, that's not okay. Like
It's a lot of money,
crazy.
man, especially today in this economy with the price of everything. I mean,
and for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so I can be a little bit better. Come on, dude.
Easy now. We're going to go back into the whole discussion.
It's just like, it's so stupid. It's anyway, you're right. We'll go back into it. So,
That's fun. You talk about YouTube and that, and I did an interview with this guy, GFT Gaming on YouTube. He's a real small channel. He's a great guy. One day I searched my game. I searched the title of my game sometime on YouTube every once in a while, see if anyone played it, because it's sold okay on Steam, better than I thought it would. And I saw a video of this guy covers like homebrew stuff, and he played it, and I was like, I commented and whatnot, and then I saw he did an interview with another developer who I actually followed because he does a lot of how-to videos on assembly code. Commented and said, "Oh, this is a great interview. You know, appreciate you doing this." And then he asked me like, "Oh, hey, maybe you want to come on for an interview?" So I did an interview with him, and he asked me a lot of questions about YouTube. He really likes the channel. He likes the show too. So what's up, GFT Gaming? But yeah, super good guy. I'll leave his link in there as well, as you can watch that. But he asked me about YouTube, and I'm like, man, I like to do it, but I don't have the time. You know, it's just so times, and with the videos I was doing, man, they were taking so long. And you know,
the edited stuff, man, dude.
I'm so glad I do the OBS stuff. I mean, I got it set up to where all you gotta do is click on this thing, start recording, transition to this one, transition to that.
Yeah, and you know
stop
what?
recording, and it works.
And that's fun. And there's tons of YouTube content creators who get crazy amounts of views for doing that simple stuff. But for me, it's like a creative itch that I have to scratch. So I don't really get a lot of satisfaction at it, like doing those types of videos. Like the PS5 Pro video was fine. That was fun. But I can't see myself doing that all the time. So we do this show. So this is fun. We just get it all out. The game pre-orders are closed. So those will ship to people in probably mid to late October, early November. Those will all ship out. Guys making the boxes now for those. I'll be getting the cartridges probably within the next month. And then
the only reason I'm keeping my NES is so I can play this game.
I appreciate it. Well, on that note, I also updated the Steam version and the itch version to match the cartridge, because I made significant changes since it was originally released on Steam and itch. Because I wanted obviously I wanted the cartridge version to be perfect, and everybody who has played it who has played the digital versions since I've made those changes have had zero issues with it. And Sai, I changed it so you can get infinite lives early on. So that was for you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So if you want to cheat, you can.
Oh, I will. don't worry about that. That's
done. So if you go on the website now, retrobrogames.com, and you go to our games, it'll just give you you can't pre-order the cartridge anymore. You have to either buy it on itch or buy it on Steam. I would recommend itch, because you can buy the Windows version, which is the Steam version, and the ROM as well. So you can put it on an EverDrive, play on an emulator, etc. So that's on there. Haven't really worked on the sequel too much lately because I've been playing Black Myth Wukong. I'm really going to take my time with my next game. And when I say take my time, it certainly won't come out next year. It'll be maybe 2026. And I really want to have more polish on it and do so much. I have a lot of big plans for the next one, since I know so much more now. So that's where I'm at. That's my update to everybody. Haven't really streamed on Rumble too much. I streamed Black Myth Wukong like a week ago. I did like 2 or 3 streams on that. God of War's coming out, so I'll probably stream that over on Rumble. I can't wait for that game to come out. I've been wanting to play that game since it came out on the PS5. I almost bought a PS5 for that game, actually. But I didn't want to spend $500 to play one game, especially when I have a $1,000 PC. That would have been silly. Yeah. So I was like, I'll just wait. So I'll stream that. I got this game called Pumpkin Jack the Pumpkin King. I'm going to stream that. It looks like medieval from the PS1. I'm going to stream that a little bit around probably Halloween time, because that's good. That's going to be close soon. October's right around the corner. And dude, there's a Dead Rising remake. Did you know about this?
Yeah,
I heard about it. Yeah, that's cool.
I found out about this in your Discord like yesterday, so I put it on my Steam wish list. I'm going to buy that game because I love the original Dead Rising. But that was one of the first 360 games I had, and I fucking love that game. I remember getting the achievement where you could kill like 1,000,000 zombies. There's an achievement in that game for killing 1,000,000 zombies, and I remember for hours just going in the van and driving down into the tunnel, where all the zombies were, and you could just mow them down, dude. I would do it for hours at a time. I mean, this is like 2006, 2007. I was in the Navy. I had one kid and had a whole lot of free time. So yeah, I'm gonna play that. I'm definitely gonna stream that. I love that game.
When they were shutting down the 360 stuff, they put all that Dead Rising stuff on sale for like next to nothing. So I picked up all that stuff for digitally. What a great thing to see that, and it's what a great time of year to bring it out too for.
And I have one last update. Cy knows about this, but for Max, he might cry. Some people might cry a little bit about this. I got rid of the CRT. It's not there anymore. I know.
Ooh.
You know what it is, man? I had too many screens down here. You can't see it, but in front of me, I have 3 screens because I have my computer monitor, I have my second monitor, and then to my right, my wife has her TV/monitor. So it's like there's just screens on this wall. And then behind me, I have my big screen. That's just a 50. It's not a big screen. But on that giant wall, I put my projector up there so I can watch movies. So like, I just had too much. I don't like having too much stuff. I really don't. I'm like a minimalist almost, which is weird for a retro gamer to say that, but I don't like having a lot of shit. I just don't. Plus, my wife's like a super clean freak. So I still have my consoles hooked up. My Genesis is on my 50-inch. I have that hooked up to a retro tank, and that was a nightmare because for some reason I was getting lag that was driving me crazy. You're not supposed to get lag with a retro tank. Turned out so the TV has a game. It's called instant response mode. I had that on, but I was still getting lag. So I tried everything on this fucking TV to get it to not lag, and then finally I changed the picture image. Like the vivid, cool, like those types of modes. There was a game picture image mode. I changed it to that. The lag went away. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I thought that just changed the colors of it or whatever, but the lag's gone. So I have that hooked up. I have my original Xbox hooked up. That's another thing. I can hook up more stuff to that TV. I have my Wii hooked up over there, Xbox 360. I'm going to get some pound cables for my Sega Saturn. I was going to go with the 5X Pro, but I'm like, the RetroTink 5X Pro, but I'm like, I don't play those enough. Yeah. I'm not like Cy. I don't play my stuff all the time. I play most of my gaming on my PC. So I'm going to get the pound cables for the Saturn. There's like an S-Video to HDMI box that I found for my 3DO. So I'll hook that up on there, and I'll spend a lot less money. I have the pound cables for my original Xbox. Those cables are great. So hopefully the Saturn one is good. The reviews I looked at, they seem to be okay. It's not a retro tank, but if it looks good, I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Max said he was going to pull my retro card for getting rid of my CRT.
Well, Max is supposed to show up tonight to be on this with us, and he didn't show up. So
he's
go ahead
got
and
a
talk
lot.
shit, Max.
He's. I didn't show up to his retro weekend thing, so.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, we're even now, Max.
It would have been you would have been a big help moving that big ass fucking TV that Max made me move. So this can keep going if we want. There's all kinds of reason to give each other shit about stuff.
But no,
35-inch Sony Trinitron.
Yeah,
holy
that's
crap.
Insane.
Psycho.
Yeah, a 35-inch.
Yes.
I didn't even know they made glass screens that big, to be honest with you. I thought they capped out at like 32.
Nope, 35. And so heavy, there's literally no way you could move it by yourself. It's too big, too weird shaped.
How does it,
too heavy.
Did it look good though? Did you guys hook it up and play some games on it?
God, it looks so good. We played PS2 games, light gun games. We played N64 games on there. We played arcade games on there. He has a modded Xbox, like an old school Xbox, with like every kind of game on there you can imagine. We played, dude. It's the TV is beautiful. It puts out a perfect picture. No issues. None of that weird stuff in the corners. Nothing. But good God, it was a pain in the ass. It was, and they're huge. That TV's huge. Like it takes up so much space. So I don't blame you for getting rid of it, John. Like I'm down to just one CRT. I keep it in the corner, and that's it. It's a 26-inch Trinitron. That's as big as I need. I don't need anything other than that. It's fine.
There's going to be a time in the future where they're all in scrap heaps, and hopefully it's not while I'm alive, because I might shed a tear.
Yeah.
But there's less and less of them out there. I remember when I was trying to find my CRT 3-4 years ago, they were actually kind of hard to find in Facebook Marketplace. I was kind of like, wow, that's crazy. Okay.
Picky, do you have one, or did you get rid of yours already? You don't. I don't think you have one. Do you?
I haven't had a CRT, and I don't remember when the last CRT. My last CRT actually was when they actually put out widescreen HD TVs. That was 120 pounds. My dad and I had to go take it down. I remember I had it at my parents, and I finally got rid of it. It took forever. It took a lot to move it in there, but I had the beginnings of HD and widescreen with the tube TV, and it was fantastic.
There's so much new technology now too that exists to hook up those old consoles now.
Yeah.
On modern TVs. It's, I mean, you could sit here and debate it whether it's necessary or not to have a CRT, and for the longest time I would tell you, yeah, you have to have one. But I got to the point, for me personally, it just wasn't convenient. I don't start watching more movies down here, so that's more fun.
Honestly, it's not necessary. It's a luxury. If
It's
you
nice
grew
to
up,
have.
yeah, if you grew up with it, it's fun. Yeah, no kid is gonna get one of those damn things. Like no kid would. Nobody under the age of, I don't know what, 30
Yeah,
would
probably.
ever even want one, you know? So, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it's been fun. Thank you, everybody who is still with us in the premiere chat. Appreciate you guys hanging in for the almost 2-hour show. A lot to talk about. Vicky Old Gamer, Cyrus. Make sure you guys check those out. Check them out on Rumble. I'll remember to put the link in the description this time. I forgot last time. But all right, guys, take it easy, and we'll see you on the next show.
Big world pixelized controllers we command. Virtual worlds conquest grand. Science Bro, Metal Saints, gaming news without restraints. Retro games, new tech search on this pod. Legends merge. Old school tales, arcades pride, console wars keep it live. Joystick buttons, old school rain, next gen glory every stage. Retro quest, fury bright, speed runs battles every night. Cyrus RetroBro stands tall, gaming legends they call. CRT screens and LED, flicker, flash, reverie. Microphone to shield their sword, podcast seconds, gaming lords. Flashing screens and LED, flicker, flash, reverie. Microphone to shield their sword,